you felt that, I don't know, back in the good old days, tech used to be better. I know this is a thing that everyone over 40 says, oh, back in my day, it used to be better. But I feel like it was. I feel that back, in the 90s, in the early 2000s, we had this enormous promise of hope with technology. It was going to connect everyone together. It was going to change the world. And now it feels like we've failed that. And for a while I thought it was my imagination, but it's not your imagination. People have been researching what tech has been doing, what these big platforms have been doing. And we've discovered that Google search is worse than it used to be. Google search used to be amazing. It's not so amazing now. It will get worse with AI-generated content. Amazon is absolutely full of ads. No longer do you find the best product for the best price. You have to go searching for it. And TikTok, even a very recent platform, no longer gets you. TikTok rose to fame because it had such a good algorithm at recommending you videos. And now it does less of a good job at that. And it's not because the algorithm changed. We'll see why. All of these have encountered a process known as enshittification. Now that is not a word that I made up. That is a word that Cory Doctorow made up. Some of you may know him from XKCD. He is a very prolific writer and speaker. And in fact, a lot of what I'm talking about here is based upon writings or presentations that Cory has done. We'll have links at the end. Now, enshittification was made the word of the year in 2023 by the American Dialect Society because it's a cool word and it's about an important thing. So how does the process of enshittification happen? How do we go from a platform which was really great and is now kind of shit? Well, step one is you make a great product. And this is the time when it's really great. This is really, really cool. I was on Facebook back in 2009. I know this because I went through some of my old CVS repositories and found some Perl code in there that plugged into Facebook. Facebook literally changed my life. I was sort of this, awkward, nerdy guy who wasn't really sure how to make or stay in touch with friends, and Facebook let me connect with friends and see what they were doing. Facebook let me find events. It's like, oh, wow, there's all this cool stuff out there I can go to. And because I was too socially awkward to actually ask anyone what events were on or where I could go, I spent most of my time writing FQL, Facebook Query Language. Here is an example from that 2009 source code repository I was looking through, where I'm going through everyone in a particular group and finding every event that they have been invited to within a particular time range. And so I can go, oh, I wonder what's interesting happening this weekend. I can see that Andrew's going to a sweet party. And I could be like, hey, Andrew, you want to hang out this weekend? Oh, yeah, no, I'd love to come to that party. That'd be great. And so I literally coded myself a social life. I cannot tell you how revolutionary a change this was. But now, Facebook, I don't really log into it very much, once every couple of months to see messages from family. It's endless ads. There are so many notifications I do not care about. And it used to be that you could turn these off. I have been unable to find a way to turn off most of the notifications I don't care about. And so logging into Facebook feels like it's a job for me now. It's not something I want to do unless somebody pays me. Google search was amazing. In the days of Alta Vista and Ask Jeeves and Dogpile and Yahoo and everything, Google was incredible because it just gave you the results that you were looking for. It was fast, there weren't any ads, it was amazing. And back in the day, Twitter was, less of a trash fire than it is now. Twitter's actually where I've probably spent the most time overall. These were good services. Users very rightly flocked to them because they were so excellent. And you need to have users if you want to have the second stage of enshittification, which is you make a great product. But this time you make it for your business customers. So to take a case study, an example, we'll look at Amazon. Now, Amazon sells stuff. They sell a lot of stuff. And they have managed to secure themselves an enormous market. we have an estimated 82% of US households having a Prime subscription. That is enormous market penetration. So if you want to sell something, any sort of thing, you probably want to be on Amazon because that's where all of the users are, that's where the customers are. And Amazon, sure enough, at the start of things, opened up the doors to people selling their products on Amazon. They had a huge market, there were cheap ads, there were low commissions. It was absolutely fantastic for business. And so everybody ended up on Amazon. All of your suppliers ended up on Amazon. And of course, that's something you also need for your enshittification, which is for your third step, which is to make a great product for your shareholders, or if you're Twitter, for one billionaire's ego. And at this point, you end up with maximum enshittification. You have a system which is shit for business. If you are on Amazon now, it's no longer a case of, oh wow, my best product finds the users and I pay low commissions. No, about 45% of your sale price is going to be going in sales fees, in advertising, in making sure that your product can ship through Amazon Prime, things which will actually get it sold. And in many cases, Amazon will take products which it sees are successful and manufacture its own version of them, put them at the top of search results. It doesn't have to pay 45% commission, so it can sell them for less. It's shit for customers. One study found that if you searched for cat bed on Amazon, then the first page was 100% advertisements. It was either sponsored content or it was Amazon's own products. And in fact, the first 5 pages, oh, and one of them was a dog carrier. It wasn't even a cat bed, but it was a dog carrier made by Amazon. The next 5 pages, or the first 5 pages, still had 50% ads on average. So there is a huge weakening of that organic search, of that good algorithm that used to find you the best products, and instead for users, it's wading through a lot of stuff. You might find what you want there, but you might not find the best product at the best price, which is what the original sales thing was with Amazon. So this brings us to the 4th stage of enshittification. You've made a great deal for users, you've clawed back all that value, made a great deal for businesses, for partners, you've clawed back all of that value, you've made it really great for your shareholders. What should the business do now? It should die. It's a shit product. Nobody wants to use it. And it should die. If it's bad for business, if it's bad for users, why on earth do these things still exist? Why aren't they all dead? Well, one of the reasons why is that we see enshittification most when you can have a monopoly, or when you can have something that ends with opoly, like oligopoly or duopoly, where you hold an outsized part of the market. And we know that private monopolies are always bad. Adam Smith, the grandfather of capitalism, made a big deal about how capitalism only works if you don't have monopolies. You need to have that competition. But what we've seen in a lot of technology is that you can build up these monopolies, and we haven't done anything about it. The other reasons why these still exist, switching costs. It can be hard to move from a platform, either because exporting your data there is tricky, or in the case of social networks, all of your friends are there. I keep telling everyone, oh, come to Mastodon, it's great. And they're like, yeah, but my aunt doesn't use Mastodon, my grandfather doesn't use that Mastodon. The people who I want to converse with are still on Facebook or still on whatever Twitter's called these days, or whatever it happens to be. The other thing where you can see a lot of enshittification, oh my gosh, so much, is smart devices, where you don't really own them. Your smart televisions, your smart toasters, things where there is software in there which is dependent upon some manufacturer keeping that up to date, keeping that working, they may not be working in your interests. I have spent a lot of time enabling debug mode on smart devices and popping a shell and trying to get root access and turning things off, because most of them are loaded with things I do not want. So what are some solutions to this if you don't want to have an internet of enshittification? Well, one thing which we need, which we have not been good at, is strong antitrust. Strong antitrust laws, strong antitrust actions. Now, this used to be a common thing. We used to break apart railways, which got too big, which formed monopolies. We broke apart Standard Oil, which was an effective monopoly back in the day with the Rockefellers. We eventually broke apart Bell Telephones, which had a monopoly on the telephone market. We need to break apart tech. If we have these large monopolies, they're not going to go away. They're not going to get better. You're not going to see the advantages of competition. You are just going to end up with services which are shit for everyone, but you don't really have a choice but use them. Capitalism only works with competition. Now, the problem is, antitrust takes a long time. We're talking years or decades of legal action by governments who may not be that invested in doing this. That's a long time. So what can we do now? One thing that we can focus on more as individuals is looking for the right to exit, looking for the ability to be able to say, hey, I want to take my data from this platform and move it to somewhere else. And most importantly, supporting laws which add strong interoperability. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if you look at a lot of platforms now, they give you ways where you can go, oh yeah, click on this button and we'll give you all the data. Except it might not be all the data, or it might not be in the formats that you used to, or it might say, oh yes, we're collecting it now, come back in a week, and then we'll give it to you. So that's not strong interoperability. That is something which is controlled by the platform, and they might accidentally have a bug in it, or say, oh, hackers have been using it to do something. You're trusting them to support that. Strong interoperability is where you as a hacker, where you as a user can access the platform and take your data, even if they don't want you to. And this is how Facebook got started. This is how Facebook got big. In the early days of Facebook, when MySpace was the dominating player, Facebook said, hey, give us your username and password for MySpace, and we'll hop in there, we'll copy your messages across to Facebook. If you respond to something in your Facebook inbox, we'll copy it back to MySpace so your friends don't miss out on anything. We'll move across your pictures, they didn't do songs, but whatever else was there. This is how they got their market, by saying you can just pick up everything and move to Facebook and it's easy. If you try and do that now, you will probably see some sort of a legal case brought against you. Very commonly, we see DMCA being used for this, against digital rights management, and it comes with a 5-year jail term or a $500,000 fine for the first offense. So this used to be something you can do, but you can't really safely do it anymore. There are exceptions. I'm not brave enough to risk having a legal battle to say that I'm covered by those exceptions. So interop needs to be sacred. We need to have first and foremost that if you are extracting your own data from a service, that is never a crime. You should own your data and you should own the right to access your data, even if it means that you have to scrape a website, or it means that your buddies get together and reverse engineer things. We also need the right to source code. Now, I'm not talking about the right to source code in all situations, but the right to source code when you have a device that you are expected that you own. And I want to give one rather striking example here, and that is with a Polish train system. So this here is a Newag 45WE train. It's a cool electric train. I love trains. I think that they're fantastic. What's important is it's made by Newag, but it's serviced by a different company. So Newag won the tender in a Polish city to supply the trains, but a different company won the tender to service the trains. Now, that's not unusual. You expect trains to have a long lifespan and to be serviced. And so when you buy the train, you also get, in this case, a 20,000-page manual detailing how to care for and service the train. And what was discovered is that SPS got their first train in for servicing, they brought it into their yard, they pulled it all apart, followed the manual, And they discovered that when they had finished servicing it, it wouldn't start. And it's like, well, that's a little odd. And in fact, a second train came in, and they serviced that, and it wouldn't start. And then there was a train in another city that wouldn't start. Now, of course, if you have a government contract to service trains, and you're not producing trains which work, there are substantial penalties that go with that. And this service company were at their wits' end. They had a deadline coming up where their contract could be terminated, and they were having penalties every single day. So they did something which is unconventional in the train servicing world. They went to their favorite search engine, and they typed in Polish hackers. Because they're like, maybe it's something up with the firmware. Like, how do you tell that if you're a train engineer? And they found a team called Dragon Sector. Because if you're going to be a hacker group, you have to have a cool name and a cool logo. And they hired a couple of people from Dragon Sector and said, look, we've got these trains. Can you see what's going on with them? And after a lot of reverse engineering and writing custom Ghidra extensions and giving an absolutely fantastic talk at the Chaos Computer Conference last year, they managed to figure out what was going on with the trains. So one, they were able to flip some bits in memory and the trains would start up, which was excellent. The other thing is that with the decompiled code, they found a few things which looked like this, where you had a bounding box with the latitude and longitude that checked if the train was in the service yard of a competitor. And if it was in the service yard of a competitor for more than a couple of days, it would brick the train. And it wasn't just one competitor, it was lots of competitors. Except you'll see there is one line which is different. That one line is their own service yard, and it only returns true if the lock function test is enabled. So not only had they written this brick code into the train, but you can see that they tested it by rolling it into one of their own yards and turning on this flag and making sure the train would brick itself. That's not cool. That's really not cool. And this is an example of outright sabotage. This is not just, oh, oops, we had a bug that we forgot to document. The normal sort of thing. No, this is outright sabotage. They were relying upon third parties not being able to get the trains running and for them to get all the lucrative servicing contracts themselves. Now, I can't tell you what the result of this is. It is an ongoing investigation. It's all through the Polish courts right now. But I hope that the penalties for something like that are very steep indeed. And it gives you an example of why having source code for things that you own is important, because you shouldn't have to go and get a Polish dragon hacker group to come and help you out if you've got a funny train. The very last thing which you can do is that you can look for tech which cannot be enshittified. And in fact, if you go back before the computer era, you find that there is a lot of technology there which actively resists enshittification. So this is my dad's old amplifier. It's about the same age as me. And I absolutely love it because the first time it's like, oh, I wonder if I could get this working again. I turned it over to take the screws off the bottom, and there's this little pouch that says schematic diagram attached to the bottom. And if you open it up, there is a complete schematic for the entire amplifier showing you what everything is, what the parts are, where the boards are, what your test points are. It was absolutely incredible. So you'll find if you do go back before the enshittification era, you can find things which were made to be repaired, which were made to be looked after. And that is why some of the right to repair legislation, which we're seeing now, is so important to say that, hey, you have a right to repair your tractor, or a right to repair your phone, or a right to repair your train, rather than having to rely upon a manufacturer who will obviously charge you more money or try to encourage you to buy a new item. It's also why looking for things with open source is so important. Because if you have something which is open source, even if you don't know what the code is, you can probably find someone else who can help you with that. It makes things a lot easier. Otherwise, enshittification's a bit hard. So try to find the things which are free, which are open, which give you interoperability, and use them. If you want more information on enshittification, the best place I've found is Cory Doctorow's blog, because he talks about it a lot, and he writes about it a lot, and I would absolutely recommend going there. You can also grab me during happy hour. Everyone, thank you very much.